Then now that you've located your cell in the desired gene, we place the cells in different plates to let them grow some more, so you can have a larger sample size. And then sorry, I already did that one. You'd splice it again to take out the desired gene or the trait, and then you'd insert it into a new strand that of the organism that you'd like to put it in. And if it expresses the trait, then you've succeeded in the experiment. So now that I've gone over the process, let's go over some of the present facts and the benefits of what GMOs can bring to us. So to start off, GMOs, first, before I start talking about how the crops are designed to be resistant to certain things, such as pests and herbicides. But now, with the research that has been put into this, we are able to make foods that contain more nutritional value as well. We're able to produce more nutritional value as well, and even grow bigger and have better taste. And we can even speed up the process of growing fruits and trees, like with my mentor. My mentor for this Bio Expo project, his name is Scott Schaefer, and he's a third-year PhD student at the Washington State University. And at his lab, they're working on decreasing the amount of time it takes to have apples flower on the apple trees. At the current time, it takes about 3 to 5 years, and they're trying to reduce it down to maybe even just 6 weeks or just 6 months. And they're also working on increasing the amount of calcium that is produced inside the apples as well, because there's a disease known as bitter pit that causes the apple to produce very low levels of calcium. And since there's low levels of calcium, it weakens the cell wall, causing it to rupture and creating brown spots across the surface of the apple. So increasing the amount of calcium would help eliminate the occurrence of this disease. Now, let's get back to some of the other facts. Currently, there are also 25 other countries in the world that produce GMOs, and as I've said before, the United States produces the most of them. It's approximated that about 70% of our foods on the market actually contain at least one portion of a GMO in it. Now let's talk some of the benefits of it. Some of the benefits are it's actually very helpful to the farming community, because these crops produce a much larger yield and save the farmers a lot of time because they grow much quicker. And it's also much cheaper to use them because you don't have to spend as much money on herbicides and pesticides. As I've stated before, one example is the corn that has been engineered to contain edible vaccine to be carried to third world countries. And then I know, like all us customers, like to see healthy food on the shelves as well. So because of GMOs, we are able to increase the shelf life of foods as well, so they last longer on the shelves and contain more and better nutrients. So these are some of the things that help the argument to keep GMOs actually in production, but there is a side that really believes that GMOs should cease to exist. Some of the reasons are because some companies that produce GMOs are starting to take over the market and control the food supply. And since they don't have to be labeled when they're sold, they're hiding amongst the rest of our foods on the shelf, so we don't know whether or not we're buying those kind of foods or not, GMO foods or not. And another example another reason is because that they're not really tested properly. They're only tested for about 28 days on lab mice, and this is an insufficient amount of time to collect any real data at all on side effects. And since it's so short, there's no long-term side effects that have been recorded either. And because of this, since no one knows the effects of them, some people are going to the extent of believing that it may actually genetically alter the consumer as well in the long run. Also, there's a problem with the genes from the plants being passed down and transmitted to the weeds themselves. So now, instead of just having normal weeds that can be eliminated using herbicides known as like Roundup here, these are becoming super weeds, which must be exposed to very high levels of the herbicide in order to kill them, which just exposes the crops themselves to even higher levels as well, which may be harmful to the consumer. And something that didn't include in here is there's also another example of this where there's a corn known as BT corn crop, which produces a endotoxin. It produces a BT delta endotoxin to kill the larva that lives on it, known as the European core borer. And the genes from since the toxin kills the larva by destroying the gut wall and killing it from the inside out, these larvae are actually starting to gain resistance to these to the toxin as well. So instead of just being super weeds that we have to fight against now, they're also creating super bugs that are harder to kill. Now I'd like to show you a small clip known called "From Seed to Supermarket," also from the same movie, Food Inc.